Those terrible twins, Ronnie and Reggie Kray, are too well known to merit any further description. Tough, resourceful, ruthless gangsters, they ruled their East End manor with an iron hand. They had a fondness for society and high life and associated themselves with elements of the American mafia, wanting to make an impact in London. The Krays were not armchair gangsters. In spite of having a good supply of trigger-happy hitmen, the short-tempered, volatile twins sometimes personally dealt with enemies who had annoyed them. In 1965, the Krays wanted to muscle in on the Soho rackets, run by gangster George Cornell. In spite of the twins' fearsome reputation, Cornell snubbed them. This was not a smart move on Cornell's part, nor was it prudent of him. On the 9th of March 1966, to go drinking at the Blind Beggar public house situated at number 337 Whitechapel Road, right in the middle of the Krays manor. When Ronnie heard of this intrusion, he and a friend rushed down to the Blind Beggar. Cornell only had time to say, "Well, look who's here," before he was shot between the eyes. The pub was far from empty at the time, but in some strange manner, none of the barmaids or drinkers had seen exactly what had happened, or observed what the gunman looked like. Testifying against the Krays could be a very dangerous thing. In late 1967, a gangster named Jack McVitie, a minor member of the Krays firm, was given an advance of £1,500 to fulfill a contract put out by the twins to kill one of their enemies. However, Jack failed to carry out the job, and the Krays decided to maintain the discipline in their gang. He should be taught a hard lesson. They invited Jack to a drinking party in the basement flat at number 1 Evering Road, Stoke Newington. Hoping that the Krays had forgiven him for the lapse, Jack eagerly accepted the invitation. As he entered the flat, Reggie pointed a handgun at his head and pulled the trigger twice, but the gun had jammed. Ronnie then seized hold of Jack as Reggie stabbed him repeatedly with a carving knife. The flat was cleaned up and Jack's body disposed of. It has been speculated that he's likely to help prop up a flyover. The Krays' wholesale criminal activities meant that a special Scotland Yard task force led by Leonard "Nipper" Reid was assigned to bring them down. The twins were arrested in May 1968, along with 15 members of their firm. Many East Enders were pleased that the Krays' reign of terror was finally over. No longer fearing retribution, they freely gave evidence against the twins. In the end, both the Krays were sentenced to life imprisonment in March 1969, with a non-parole period of 30 years for the murders of George Cornell and Jack McVitie. Ronnie was later certified insane, and he died of a heart attack in Broadmoor in 1995. Reggie was harshly treated, remaining a Category A prisoner for a long period of time, to make sure he was unable to escape and prevent him from leading the remainder of his firm from within the prison walls. He was finally released on compassionate grounds in August 2000 and died of bladder cancer that same year. The Blind Beggar Murder Pub at number 337 Whitechapel Road is still open for business, although today it caters to tourists and sightseers rather than gangsters. The murder house at number 1 Evering Road has also survived. Jack McVitie's body has never been found to this day.